But if you have to switch bells quickly, it's not necessary to damp up here and then put the bell down and pick up another bell. You just put it down, pick up your other bell. Gyro. These are always fun. People love these.
Oh, listen to the sound.
There's a nice sound to it. HB, handbells. HC, hand chimes. Now, sometimes you will see if a piece is it's handbell music, but it also uses the hand chimes. The notes will be diamond shaped. That's about halfway down in the left-hand column. That indicates that you're to use the chimes for those notes. Mallets. This is another whole thing. It'll tell you if you're supposed to ring the bell on the table with the mallets. You hold the mallets the same way you would hold drumsticks in a matched grip. Not this kind of drumstick, but this way at a balance point so that so the mallet will bounce off the bell, not this, for obvious reasons. And you want to hit it at approximately the same place where the clapper would strike. There, up on the rim, you just don't get it. LV, already explained that to you. Now, the sign for using mallets, there's actually a couple of different ones. You can mallet on the table, and you get that kind of a stop sound, which that indication is the plus sign with the dot. See that? Think of the dot as being staccato, and this gives you a staccato sound. You can also bring it this way, or use the mallets here. Sometimes you get people have to ring both of their bells off the table. You can hold them like this, or you can hold them this way. It's easier. Then you can damp one, and you can damp the other one. I thought of just about everything. Mallet, or I'm sorry, mallet lift. You don't see that too often, but you get that percussive sound right away, but then you can sustain it. Here's one that comes around. Mallet rolls. This one is very popular. Donald Elliott hated it and never put it in his music, but it's very popular anyway. It's called a martellato. These are a little loose. Sometimes people will get real enthusiastic about their marks. Not good for the bell, because it is the most fragile place on the bell is right here where the bell and the handle come together. So obviously there's a little hole there, and if you continually slam a bell into the table, it'll break right there. So you need to when you do a mart, lift the bell off the table at approximately the same distance as the bell is large. And the largest bell that you should ever mallet is the C4s. You shouldn't, Mart, yes, thank you. You shouldn't ever mart a bell larger than that, just because they get so much heavier, and they are the fragileness or the fragility of the bell increases with its size. So, in fact, let's try that. Let's all stand up. When you do the mart, lift the bell straight up off the table, the same distance that the bell is large, and the whole bell, including the handle, should go into the table pad. hitting the handle first and then the bell. Think of putting your whole fist into that pad with the rim of the bell. The bell horizontal or parallel, I guess, to the table.
Yeah.
You don't want the rim and you don't want the handle, either one to hit first.
Yeah.
They should hit at the same time with your fist. Okay?
3-point ending. Oh, that's better. Yeah.
And then the other, what you can do with that is you can martellato and then lift the bell right off the table. And again, you get that percussive sound right away. And of course, to make that most effective, you want to do that, the mart lift, and then turn the bell so the sound goes out where you want it to go. Moving along, because our time is very limited today for all that we have to do. Sometimes, if you have, you'll see at the top of any piece of handbell music, the bell's needed chart or the bell's used chart. That's very handy. And rather than looking through a whole piece to say, oh, which ones do I need? Do I need F sharp? Well, it's not in the key of any key that would use G sharp. Well, how come it's in there? It's an accidental somewhere, but you don't want to accidentally find it.
That's right.
Another technique that is probably underused is the pluck. And I'll do it up here off the table so you can see a little better. You take two fingers, these two fingers, stick them underneath the clapper, lift the clapper up, put your thumb on top of the clapper, and flick it down. On the table? Usually, yeah. I just pick it up. Yeah, just flick it down. Okay, you want to put your thumb on the top. That's really complicated. When it's sideways, the top is there. Okay, moving along. When you see an R, or if you don't see anything in your handbell music, if you see R or you see nothing, that means you're going to ring. The reason for the R is sometimes you have what the LV marking, let vibrate marking, but that's going to come to an end, and it's either going to come to an end with an R, which means ring normally, ring and damp normally, or you see another LV marking, which means you damp and start a new let vibrate section of the music. And that would be when the chord is staying the same. And if you're going from a C to a D chord, you're probably going to see an LV to start the D chord. And that gives you the kind of sound that you would get on a piano if you're holding the sustaining pedal down. Just everything keeps ringing, but as soon as you let that pedal up, that's either the R or the new LV sound. Okay, oh, ring touch, these are fun. Ring it and touch it to you real fast. Now, he made such a big deal of like going like this and ringing the bell out here. And now we're ringing up here, so we can do this. What's he talking about? Well, this is a special effect. And what we learned so long ago, I almost forget to mention it once in a while, generally speaking, in handbells, the longer the note, whole note, the longer the stroke. 1, 2, 3, 4, damp. You got a half note, use the shorter stroke. 1, 2, 3, 4. You got a quarter note, 1, 2. You still have that same motion, but it's just shorter. Whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th note. Kind of a touch. But that's something just to kind of file away. The longer the stroke, the longer the note can be. Okay, and back to the paper. Roll chord, right here. Selective damp for a single note. That's the damp sign at near the top of the left-hand column. That's what it looks like. Shake. These are fun too. Now you want to make sure you're not going like this sideways, because it's not going to ring very much if you go sideways, right? Because the clapper is engineered to only move in one direction, on one axis. So if you want to shake, then the clapper will hit on both sides of the bell. And shake has two indications really. Sometimes it will say SK for the duration of the note, or sometimes you just get that wavy little line. Swing. These are all so much fun. Can you tell I love this? But when you swing, you can get that kind of tower ringing sound. To swing, you ring the way you normally would. Then you step back with the foot on the same side of the hand that you're ringing. So if you're going to swing with your right hand, you're going to step back with your right foot. Ring, down, up. And there are two ways to do this, one of which is wrong. Okay? You go like this, you don't get much of that tower ringing kind of sound. Listen to the difference between this and this. Hear the Doppler effect, much greater if you get the bell pointed all the way to the floor. Now the reason you step back with it, and I'm not really going to do it here, is because if, depending on your situation, where you have to ring, there might be a wall right behind you. Right? So if you go this, and you go way back here, what do you get? Yeah, you'll hit the wall and you'll do a Walmart. I love doing these just so I can say that. But if you step back, your foot's going to hit that wall first, and it should remind you not to swing back too far.
You have to ring with both feet, both hands.
Well, then you can move whatever foot you want.
You have to jump back.
Yeah. If you can get your ringers to do that, that'd be really good. Vibrato, you don't see it too often, but.
What about thumb damp?
Oh, thumb damps.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, skip one. Thumb damps. You need to put your thumb on the bell when you ring it. Now, when you get into the larger bells, and depending on the size of your thumb, you might put a thumb and a finger up there. Now, if we come up here and get a smaller bell, thumb is quite adequate.
Yeah.
At least mine is anyway.
Yeah.
But you get down into the bigger ones, you really need a gorilla-sized thumb. Yeah, so you put a a finger up there. We have a couple of people in Pittsburgh who don't have real big hands, and they've played with bigger bells, so they'll put 2 fingers up. But you get that kind of neat sound. There's not a whole lot of other things going on. Or you will often see a thumb damp in the treble section of the handbell music when the middle bells or the lower bells have a melody, because they don't carry as well that sound. So they want to play a series of chords that give the upper ringers the thumb damps. So thank you dear for pointing that out. Table land damp.
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, this one's fun too. But then used judiciously. Ring.
That's a good last chord.
Yeah, at the end of, what did we use that with? Not good for all.
We used it for some.
Yeah, you know, some big enthusiastic piece, and at the end, everybody that's playing goes down the hill. It's a great, the audience or congregation just kind of loves it. Okay, vibrato. After you ring it, back and forth, and get that. You can imagine 7 or 8 of those going on at the same time. Yes, dear?
If we could do that same thing with the chimes,
Yes.
okay, can you talk about that? This is really cool.
So with a chime, going like that doesn't do a whole lot, but you can do this. Take your finger. Sounds like something you'd use here on Sesame Street, right? Voice leading lines. Since you're sometimes ringers are a little challenged in the music reading area. They don't know where the melody is, and since you've got multiple people playing the melody all at the same time, it's helpful for them to see where the melody is, especially when it moves from the bass to the treble or the treble to the bass. So you'll see these straight lines going from top to bottom or from treble to bass, indicating here goes the melody, it's going down lower now, or it's going back up higher. Because obviously you want the melody to be heard over whatever harmony is going on. So everybody else needs to thumb damp or just play softer while you bring out the melody. Okay. And on the back of that handbell notation sheet is just some quick abbreviated instructions on how to do these examples.
Could we do just 2 things?
Sure.
The question was, what is a tap pluck?
What was the question?
It's a tap pluck.
Yeah. You ask all the tough questions. Yeah. Stump. Yeah, really. I don't know whether you tap it with a mallet, or with.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I don't
we'll look
remember.
that up and let you know.
Yeah.
And on the back side, the only other one that could come in is the brush damp. That's a pretty cool thing.
Okay,
That's
so-
toward the bottom of the back.
Bells, by their very nature, have a built-in decrescendo. The larger the bell, the slower the decrescendo. This bell will ring a lot longer, and this is only a flat 4. You get up there into the high 6s and 7s. They damp themselves pretty quickly. But if you have a bell that you want to ring maybe hard and then decrescendo it quickly, you don't have to do a hard damp. You can just brush it against you, and it still goes.
Yeah, it's a nice little effect too.
Whereas up here in C7, that dies a lot quicker. And still do it. but you have to be really careful that you don't completely lose it. Okay, that is my abbreviated version of instructions on how to ring and what all these symbols mean that I usually take about 2 hours to do. Just did it in 20 minutes or so. And I think you're up next here.
Well, but
oh!
here's the other, yeah.
Yes.
Can I also say, honey, there's that paper about the positions, if you want us to talk about that.
Okay. I'll save this for last. You have a paper there in your packet about
It's the other gold one.
positions.
It's another gold one.
Unfortunately, Mary Rita and I have both seen in different places areas where the handbell director either didn't know what they were doing or deliberate or had other reasons for not following this position chart. I know of a fellow once who actually, because he was a pianist, set the bells up with the lower ones on that side and the higher ones down here, because it made more sense to him. But to the 11 ringers, it was completely opposite. And that did a real disservice to the ringers. I know that for a fact because one of them then came to ring in our church handbell choir, and that poor woman never really got very comfortable with ringing the bells the other way. Because what that does is if you set up in the opposite direction, it puts the bells in the other hand. Ooh. Yeah, you really have to think about that for a second. So instead of the lower bell being on in your left hand and the higher bell being in your right, hers were always the opposite because the tables were set up backwards. So I'm sure that fellow had the best of intentions so he could understand what was going on, but he screwed up all his ringers for a long time. So this bell assignment sheet, which is also very well explained in the Donald Alliard book, has position 1, C and D 4, position 2, E and F 4, and it goes right up the staff. Now, if you think about it a second, okay, everybody has 2 bells, but if we complete the octave, that makes 1 octave, that makes 13. We have an odd number. So if you're sharing music, then somebody is always going to be by themselves. Yeah. So we got C, D, E, and F down here. Positions 1 and 2 on a folder. Positions 3 and 4 on a folder. Positions 5 and 6 on the folder. Position 7. Somehow we ended up with 7 by themselves. It's the way Rita and I always set it up. 8 and 9 together. 10 and 11 together. That saves you about half of your cost in buying handbell music. Instead of buying 11 copies, you only need to buy 6 copies for the ringer and 1 for you. Saves a lot of money that way. Another advantage of sharing music is that, except for that poor number 7 ringer, or whoever you set by themselves, they can decide who's going to turn the page. Because that's a big deal in handbell ringing. If you have pages to turn and both your hands are busy, between the 2 people, they can decide who's going to turn that page, who's less busy. Or who missed rehearsal last week? You turn the page. So I think this chart is very self-explanatory, but please, whenever you set up your ringers, use it. Set them up this way. Handbell music is always organized in this way. Now, does anybody have more than 3 octaves of bells? Your church? Very good. Okay, so you got 1 down here at C and D 4. When you go lower, the next lower position would be G, A, and B, three notes. G, A, and B, 3, along with their accidentals. That's usually referred to as position A. And the next position would be position B, which would be C, D, E, and F, 3. Now you're thinking, boy, those have to be some pretty big bells. How's one person going to do all that? Well, there's some different techniques to bass bell ringing, and they don't play as often as these folks up here, or even the C and D. So it has been determined by the powers that be and write these things that you can very easily cover 4 bells in that position. I shouldn't say easily, because it's not that easy. And sometimes, if you can get the personnel, you put 2 people or 3 people in position A and B, and you kind of work as a team. A lot of teamwork involved right there. But in Ring Pittsburgh, we do it with 13 ringers. The basic 11 that you see here, 1 person at A, 1 person at B.
And then what's above?
Above?
Or how do you get 5 octaves?
Oh.
Unfortunately, we don't have the bells to show you, but once you start with C7, the highest one you have, then we come down here to C6, and they will get extra bells to play. And no, we don't have those
Well, you
bells.
can show it with
Yeah.
like a
So
B6 and a
C,
B5. Yeah.
they'll do this. Playing both. So
That's a whole
this,
class too.
yeah, the C.
Yeah.
Double at the octave.
Actually, yes, you're doubling up the octave is all you're doing.
Right.
Okay.
So you pick up the
So
same.
you.
So I'm sorry, it doesn't
from
really start
position 8 up, they just double.
They just double. Yeah. So even though generally what the position 11 will have is not all that difficult in 3 octave music, when you get into 4 and 5 octave music, it suddenly gets more difficult because C7 and C8 will play a lot, and you're going to be playing both of those. So suddenly what was your easiest position now becomes one of the harder ones, because they're doubling up all the time. She's going to double that. The G and the A person's going to double G7 and G8. And A6 and, yeah, A7. So they become all double at the top. That's when it really gets fun for them. So they start learning, wasn't even really going to get into this. They start learning to do things like a 4-in-hand technique. Yeah.
Boy.
Now that's really some more advanced stuff that was not the intent of this workshop, but that's how you do it. Yeah, so it's all doubling up. And it doesn't start, I'm sorry, I think I said it wrong a little bit earlier. It doesn't start with the C6, it starts with the D6 that they're doubling. So C6 is already doubled up with the C7. Does that make sense?
Well, no, it's all right.
Okay. See me later, we'll go up there. Yeah.
This is a great, I mean, because, they could know exactly where their husband is on the music. It's a great.
Yes, yeah. And they can tell that from the bells needed charts as well, but you just have to show them where they have to look for that.
And also, if you have 3 octaves of handbells, and let's say you have some folks that aren't real good readers, make sure that you put them on the 2 extremes. Like, at least that's what I learned from that workshop with
Duquesne.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
generally,
I'm going to say grade level, it wasn't pretty.
Oh, Donald Alger.
Yeah, Donald Alger, yeah. That your best readers need to be in the center of your group. Because the B and C, I mean, in 3-octave music, I mean, it's there, but you'll see like what I'm looking at here, it's optional. So a lot of times, you know.
yeah, if someone's in the key of G, your top A, B, and C aren't going to have much to do. They might be optional, might be written in there, but again, it'll be optional. I traditionally put, if I get a new ringer, I'll put him in spot 11, and move that person in someplace else. Yes.
I know this isn't the best method, but somebody passed this on to me. My folks just ring Christmas and Easter. I have a choir do it. So what I have done with the music, I may have said this to you before, I circle the syllable, you know, of the word, you know, and I write the C-E-G whatever, and so my choir, they're like the Gloria, you know, we're ringing syllables really. I mean, we're not, you know, but
Yeah.
at least they're getting some kind of experience in it, you know.
Sure. Yeah, and that's, I think Mary Rita's going to talk more about that with something else she's going to do.
Yeah, that's a good way to do that.
But there is one more thing I wanted to share with you. This little booklet was written by Kevin McChesney, who is a very prolific handbell writer. So just let me read this to you. It's all Reflections for Ringers. That's the name of the book. The Holy Spirit is the most important member of our handbell team. The Spirit brings those daily miracles to our lives. The Spirit gives that special sense of joy to our ringing. When you want to encourage someone, you say, "Thank you for a fine job," or "You mean a lot to me," or "Good for you," or "That's the Spirit." When that difficult phrase finally comes together, that's the Spirit. When you've resolved a conflict in your group, that's the Spirit. When nothing is going right and you play in service this Sunday, if someone still manages to say something funny or uplifting, that's the Spirit. When you all go out to dinner after a concert or a rehearsal and laugh and get silly and enjoy each other, that's the Spirit. When those in the congregation tell you they appreciate your music and worship this morning, that's the Spirit. A group that invites the Spirit to be a part of its music will always succeed in glorifying God. So tell those around you, family, friends, pastor, those worshiping with you, your fellow ringers, your director, everyone, that's the Spirit.